The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars and worlds, yet even in all its wonder, fear could spread faster than light. That fear now had a name: the Drexel Horde. They were not just invaders, but devourers, a swarm of biomechanical predators that consumed everything in their path. They stripped planets of life, cities of metal, and even ships of their crews. To them, war was not conquest. It was feeding. For years, the Galactic Union had tried to stop them. The Union was a council of advanced civilizations that had brought peace to dozens of systems. They had fleets of sleek starships, weapons that shone like lightning, and shields said to be unbreakable. But the Drexel did not fear shields, and they did not respect peace. They tore through one fleet after another, leaving only silence behind. On the world of Claron Prime, the Union's flagship city was reduced to ashes in less than a day. On Vesa 9, entire oceans boiled under Drexel assault, turning paradise into wasteland. Every battle became a memory of failure. The Union leaders gathered in their shining halls, their voices heavy with dread. Some wanted to flee, some wanted to surrender, but others whispered a different idea, an idea both desperate and dangerous. That whisper was a single word: Earth. Earth was new to the Union. It had joined only a few decades earlier, still rough compared to the other great civilizations. Its technology was behind, its politics noisy, and its people restless. Yet there was something about humans that made the other species cautious. Earth was classified as a death world, a term that carried weight. A death world was not a calm place of balance, but a planet of chaos and danger. Storms ripped across continents. Volcanoes spat fire without warning. Predators hunted with merciless patience. Disease, famine, and disaster were part of human history. Yet the humans had survived all of it. Not only survived, they had grown stronger because of it. The Union knew Earth's history. Humans had fought wars longer than most species had existed in space. They had stood against impossible odds time and time again. Where other civilizations sought safety, humans sought challenge. They were called reckless, unpredictable, and even dangerous. Still, they had something the galaxy needed now: the ability to fight and never stop fighting. When the Union made its official request, the words were chosen carefully. We ask Earth to send its finest. We ask Earth to send its saviors. The Union believed that perhaps humanity's soldiers would bring a new kind of hope. They expected champions in noble armor, disciplined and honorable, who would fight like guardians out of legend. On Earth, the message caused uproar. Governments argued in great halls, news channels filled with debates, and citizens spoke with fear and pride. Some asked why Earth should risk its sons and daughters for alien wars. Others said it was Earth's duty, now that it stood among the stars. But the military knew the truth of the request. The Union did not call for heroes. The Union called because they were desperate. And desperation did not want noble knights, it wanted survivors. In dark rooms, far from cameras, generals and commanders met. They looked at the reports of the Drexel Horde. They studied the endless swarm, the way it consumed worlds, the way it never surrendered. Against such an enemy, Earth would not send diplomats or idealists. Earth would send those who understood war in its rawest form. Colonel Rains, a veteran of too many battles, stood before the council of Earth's leaders. His voice was steady, his eyes cold. "Do not lie to yourselves," he said. "You don't want heroes. You want people who will do whatever it takes. You want those the galaxy would rather keep locked away, the ones who know that survival means doing things no one else dares. If you want to fight monsters, you need monsters of your own." The leaders hesitated. Some wanted to object, but deep down they knew he was right. Earth had raised its share of monsters, not in cruelty but in the fires of endless struggle. Men and women who had walked through battlefields where hope had already died, yet they kept moving forward. The decision was made. Earth would answer the Union's call, but the soldiers chosen were not polished saviors. They were the scarred, the hardened, the ones who had fought in the shadows. They were special forces, mercenaries, veterans of wars that most civilians had forgotten. They carried weapons not of elegance but of raw power, railguns that could punch through mountains, explosives that could shatter armies, and armor designed not for beauty, but for survival. When word spread to the Union that Earth had accepted, relief swept through the alien worlds. They imagined shining warriors ready to bring hope. They spoke of angels from the death world who would strike down the Drexel, but Earth's soldiers did not see themselves as angels. They were not trained to inspire hope. They were trained to win at any cost. In the weeks that followed, transports prepared. Warships were loaded with supplies. Families said their farewells, not knowing if they would ever see their soldiers again. For many of the humans chosen, this was just another mission. For the galaxy, it was the arrival of something terrifying. Colonel Rains stood aboard the lead ship, watching Earth shrink behind him. His jaw tightened. He remembered the words of the Union's request. "Send us your saviors." He muttered quietly, "Saviors? No, that's not what we are." As the human fleet jumped into the stars, a shadow of fear and anticipation spread across the galaxy. The Union had called for salvation, but what they were about to receive would not look like light or mercy. It would look like Earth's children, the children of storms, of war, of a death world. The Union had called for saviors. Earth was sending its monsters. The stars stretched endlessly as the human fleet approached the edge of the Union-controlled space. Alien observers waited on the grand station orbiting Tesseract 4, a planet devastated by the Drexel horde. The Union's leaders had expected something impressive: shining ships, disciplined soldiers in brilliant armor, faces full of courage and hope. Instead, what they saw made them uneasy. From the void, dropships emerged, dark and angular, bearing marks of Earth's battle history. No banners waved, no ceremonial lights glowed. The humans inside were silent, tense, and completely focused. They were not elegant. They were practical. They were dangerous. They carried weapons that the aliens had only read about in historical records. Railguns that fired slugs at incredible speed. Explosives designed to level entire sections of terrain, and armor that was simple, sturdy, and resistant to almost any attack. A crowd of alien diplomats whispered among themselves. "Are these saviors?" one asked. "They are soldiers," another replied, voice shaking. "But monsters. They are monsters." Colonel Rains stood at the head of the human squad aboard the lead dropship. His eyes were sharp, scanning every corner of the planet below. Tesseract 4 was a world of chaos now. Cities lay in ruins. Smoke rose from burning forests, and the Drexel swarmed across the landscape like a black tide. "Listen up," Rains barked to the humans behind him. "You were chosen because you survive where others fail. You were chosen because you do what others cannot. Remember, this isn't about honor. This is about results. You get the job done or the galaxy dies." The soldiers nodded. No one cheered. No one shouted. They had trained for this. They knew what awaited them. The first drop went down on Tesseract 4's shattered plains, where the Drexel had already destroyed most of the cities. The aliens stationed on the Union outposts gasped as the humans emerged. They expected disciplined formations, precise movements. Instead, the humans spread out like predators, scanning, setting traps, and preparing for an onslaught. The Drexel sensed the new arrivals immediately. Their insect-like heads swiveled, their mechanical limbs bristling. Thousands of them turned toward the humans. For the aliens watching from the station, it seemed like madness. Colonel Rains raised a hand. A single gesture, and the humans split into teams. Explosives detonated in the distance, drawing the Drexel into open traps. Railguns fired, piercing through hordes like lightning. The Drexel swarmed, yet the humans adapted instantly, changing strategies faster than any Union fleet could react. The aliens were stunned. Their brightest minds had never seen such tactics. Their fleets had failed repeatedly, but these humans were not restrained by rules, by formation, or by hesitation. They were not just fighting. They were destroying the enemy with surgical precision. In one ruined city, a human team moved through the remains of a collapsed building. Drexel lurked everywhere, yet the humans were relentless. Lieutenant Mara Voss, a veteran of Earth's special operations, threw an incendiary device into a Drexel cluster. They screeched as fire consumed them, yet even in that chaos, she and her team pressed forward, clearing streets and securing zones. Nearby, another team led by Sergeant Hawk set up a trap. Using explosives buried under the ruins, they detonated a series of charges, collapsing a Drexel horde into a canyon. The sight left Union leaders on the station speechless. The humans fought like monsters born from fire and survival, moving with efficiency and focus unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. The Drexel, once unstoppable, began to falter. Wave after wave fell to the humans' brutal efficiency. The Union soldiers cheered, relief flooding them. Finally, it seemed there was hope. But the aliens could not shake a growing unease. These humans were not heroes. They were warriors forged in the harshest conditions, shaped by death, chaos, and relentless struggle. Colonel Rains surveyed the battlefield from his vantage point. He spoke to his team calmly, but with authority. "Do not hesitate," he said. "The Drexel will try to break you. They will test your limits. Remember, hesitation is death. Fight smart, fight hard, fight to survive. That is the only way this ends," the humans nodded. There was no fear in their eyes. There was only purpose. They were not here for glory, for medals, or for speeches. They were here to kill the Drexel and survive. The battle raged for hours. Firestorms erupted, Drexel shrieked, and metal twisted under railgun fire. The humans pressed on relentlessly. Where alien forces had fled in fear, the humans advanced. They built barricades in moments, set ambushes, and cut off Drexel supply lines. Each move was precise yet terrifying in its efficiency. From orbit, Union commanders finally realized the truth. The humans were not angels descending to save the galaxy. They were predators, Earth's monsters, trained and armed to survive and win in the deadliest conditions. And in a fight like this, monsters were exactly what the galaxy needed. At the end of the first day, the Drexel were pushed back. Cities were still in ruins, and the battlefield was covered with the wreckage of both Drexel and human ingenuity. But the humans had proven something important. They were unstoppable when focused, unpredictable when underestimated, and deadly when pressed to the edge. The Union ambassadors, once fearful of the humans' methods, now whispered to each other. "Perhaps monsters are the only saviors we could hope for," one said softly. Colonel Rains watched the horizon as the sun rose over Tesseract, though he knew the worst battles were yet to come. The Drexel would regroup, adapt, and attack again. But the humans would be ready. They had survived worse. They had been forged by the fires of their own world, and no swarm, no matter how deadly, could break them. He turned to his second in command. "Prepare for the next wave. They will come again. And when they do, we will be ready, always ready." And so, as the galaxy watched in equal parts awe and fear, Earth's monsters had arrived. The saviors the Union had called for were not angels, not knights, not heroes in shining armor. They were the unstoppable, relentless, and deadly warriors of Earth, and their war against the Drexel had only just begun. The war with the Drexel raged on across the stars. Tesseract 4 was only the beginning. The humans had proven that the swarm could be stopped, but stopping was not enough. To survive, the galaxy needed the horde destroyed completely. Across the Union, the story of Earth soldiers spread. Some called them heroes, praising their victories. Others whispered in fear, saying that humans fought like demons. Reports of scorched battlefields, collapsed cities, and brutal tactics reached every council chamber. For the first time, the galaxy realized the truth. These were not noble saviors. These were predators in human form, monsters shaped by a death world. Yet even the critics could not deny one fact. The Drexel had been pushed back further than ever before. Colonel Rains studied the maps aboard the human flagship. Endless red marks showed Drexel infestations across dozens of systems. The only way to end this was to strike the heart, the Drexel hive world where their queen directed the swarm. The Union Council hesitated. "It is too dangerous," said one ambassador. "No army has ever entered Drexel space and returned alive." Rains did not flinch. His voice was calm but sharp as a blade. "You called us here because you had no choice. You don't beat a swarm by defending against it. You cut off the head. That is what we are going to do." The aliens exchanged fearful looks. His words were not the speech of a hero seeking approval. They were the words of a predator planning the kill. The journey into Drexel territory was like sailing into a nightmare. Stars burned dimly, their light hidden behind swarms of Drexel ships. Dead planets drifted, stripped of all life. The Union escorts trembled as they flew deeper, but the human fleet advanced without hesitation. Inside their ships, the soldiers prepared. They checked weapons, sealed armor, and tightened straps. There was no laughter, no songs of courage. There was only silence and focus. These were men and women who had stared into death too many times. For them, this was not glory. This was survival. Lieutenant Mara Voss spoke quietly to her squad. "Remember what we are. Not saints. Not saviors. Just soldiers. We do this, we end it." Sergeant Hawk smirked darkly. "Monsters for monsters." The final battle began above the hive world. The Drexel fleet swarmed in countless numbers, darkening the stars. The Union ships panicked, breaking formation, but the humans charged straight into the storm. Railguns thundered, missiles tore through enemy clusters, and soldiers launched drop pods directly onto the hive world's surface. The aliens watching from afar were horrified. To them it looked suicidal, but to the humans it was just another day of war. They fought with brutal efficiency, tearing gaps in the swarm, forcing a path down to the planet itself. Colonel Rains led the ground assault personally. The hive world was a nightmare, skies filled with toxic clouds, the ground crawling with Drexel. Yet the humans pressed forward, carving their way through tunnels of chitin and metal. Fire and explosions followed their steps. Every Drexel nest they found, they burned. Every tunnel they entered, they cleared. Their weapons roared. Their tactics shifted with each obstacle. Where the swarm adapted, the humans adapted faster. At last, they reached the Queen's chamber. She was vast, a living engine of the swarm. Her body fused with machines, her mind controlling countless Drexel across the galaxy. Her scream shook the tunnels, and the swarm surged harder than ever before. For a moment, it seemed the humans might be overwhelmed. Soldiers fell, railguns overheated, and supplies ran low. But no one broke. Not a single human turned to run. Colonel Rains raised his voice over the chaos.
This is it.
No one leaves until she's down. We came here for one reason, to end this war. Show her what Earth made us. The humans roared, not a cry of glory but of fury. They fought like creatures born for this very moment. Grenades lit the chamber with fire. Railgun rounds shattered the Queen's armored shell. And soldiers threw themselves into danger without hesitation. Finally, Lieutenant Voss charged forward with a heavy charge pack strapped to her chest. She hurled it beneath the Queen's massive frame and dove for cover. The explosion tore through the hive chamber, ripping the Queen apart. Her scream echoed into silence. And then, across the galaxy, the Drexel froze. Ships stopped mid-flight. Swarms collapsed. Worlds once under siege fell quiet. The hive had been broken. The war was over. When the humans returned, battered and scarred, the Union Council awaited them. Alien leaders stared at the soldiers who had done the impossible. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others could not even look them in the eyes. "You saved us," said one ambassador softly. "You saved the galaxy." Colonel Rains shook his head. His voice was calm, heavy with truth. "No, we didn't save you. We ended the threat because it had to be done. Don't mistake us for angels. We are not heroes. We are what our world made us. Children of storms. Predators of predators. We are monsters, and when you called, monsters are what you needed." The council chamber fell silent. There was nothing to argue. The truth stood before them, scarred and unyielding. In the years that followed, stories spread across the stars. Some worlds told tales of Earth's saviors. Others spoke warnings of Earth's monsters. Both were true. Humanity had not come as knights in shining armor. They had come as survivors, forged in a crucible harsher than most could imagine. And in the end, it was those very qualities, their relentlessness, their brutality, their refusal to yield, that saved the galaxy. The Union carved the record in their archives. We called for saviors. Earth sent its monsters, and in the end it was the monsters who saved us all.